Hello, Agriscience. Picking up where we left off, let's take a look at the swine industry in North Carolina. Really, you don't think a whole lot about swine because we don't have a whole lot in this part of the state. Yes, we have a few pigs at school, but it's because we transported them from the eastern part of the state. I kind of have this love-hate relationship with pigs because growing up in eastern North Carolina, there are more pigs than people in my home county, and so I understand pigs in the swine industry. But pigs can be difficult, and the reason that they can be difficult is because they are so smart. Um, Actually, the pig, believe it or not, is has an intelligence of what we would think about an average second grade human having. So when you think about anybody that's in second grade, by that point they've learned to read and say their ABCs and do some math and things like that. So when you think about an animal that has got an equivocal intelligence of a second grade human, that's pretty amazing. And so uh, pigs are kind of difficult sometimes because they are so smart because they can figure things out. So the swine industry it's changed so much in the last 50 to 100 years because we look for something different in swine today than what we used to look at in the past. And we're going to look at some pictures in just a couple of minutes that will help explain that. We used to look for these huge lard type hogs because we use the lard for cooking. We use the lard to make soap. We use the lard for so many different things. And the lard is just the pig fat. Um, and now we've gone to a lean type hog because we have more sedentary lifestyle. We're not going out and doing physical hard labor every day like they used to as much, and we're spending a lot of time sitting behind screens, and so we're looking at trying to have a more healthy lifestyle. So we've gone from those fatty lard type hogs to a leaner type of hog. We'll take a look at that in just a couple of minutes. There's different types of swine operations. Sometimes you have people that only want to deal with one aspect of a pig's life. And so one of the ones that we don't have in here is the farrowing operation. So one of the operations that you'll sometimes see is really people who are strictly breeding the pigs, and they're raising them from farrowing when they're born. So the actual process of giving birth in pigs is farrowing up until they're nursery size. And so you have some people who only do that because they only want to deal with the babies and they don't want to deal with the larger animals once they start to become feeders and market hogs. Um, the feeder hogs are going to be the ones who are younger, and we're going to continue to feed them and get them bigger. So sometimes you will have them go from a farrowing operation to what we call a feeder operation. And in that feeder operation, they are strictly growing. They are just getting to a point where you're going to send them to another operation, which is what we call a market operation. And so they're going to finish them and get them ready to go to market. So sometimes you will see operations where they only do one part, where they either are breeding and doing the nursery, or they're just feeding out pigs, or they're taking them and finishing them and getting them ready for market. But a lot of what we have in North Carolina is what we call farrow to finish. And so they will start with the process of the farrowing, the babies being born, and go all the way to the end. And it kind of just depends on what you're set up for. And the reason for that is because it takes different types of facilities for each part of the operation. Um, if we have an opportunity, we'll watch a video in class that shows the different aspects of it, that shows the nursery part, and then it shows, or the farrowing part, and then the nursery part, and then them going off to market. This little piggy went to market. So we will hopefully have a chance to take a look at that if you're in cohort A or B. So the swine industry has changed greatly from the past because of the way that we do things and because of the consumer demand. We used to raise pigs that look like this. I mean, these things are huge, round. fatty type of animals. And we have gone from raising this type of animal that we get a lot of lard from. Remember, we use that lard for making lye soap. We use it for frying foods. We use it for making biscuits. We use it for a lot of different things, and it's very good as far as the taste of it, but it's not very healthy. And so we've gone from these fattier types of hogs to this. And, this is kind of a lean, mean muscle machine. You got this pig here, and it's a long animal. This is the part right here where we would have pork chops. So there's a lot of pork chops in this animal. This would be the ham area. And so when you're eating ham, you're actually eating the butt muscle of the pig. Contrary to popular belief, you think about Boston butts would actually be the butt part of the pig, but the Boston butt actually comes from here as the shoulder blade. So you've got the picnic shoulder area here, and then you've got the Boston butt up here. So it's kind of weird to think about the Boston butt being in the front end of the animal and the ham actually being the butt muscle. But this is what we're looking at these days whenever we're looking at a quality animal. And you can see the difference here. This is an interesting picture to me. This is like if you were to take off and just cut off the very back portion of that animal, and you're looking at that ham muscle. This is what we have these days. We have a very lean, muscular animal that just has a little bit of fat on the outside. We want less than an inch of fat on the outside. Um, Ideally, you're looking at a half inch of fat on the outside, whereas this is what we used to raise. And so we're looking at a different type of animal genetically. We're looking at a different diet for the animal because we don't want them to get to this point anymore, because they're just not as profitable. Doesn't mean they don't taste good. It just means they're not as profitable as not what the consumer wants. So this is what we're growing these days versus what we used to grow in the past. Um, Purebred producers are going to produce these really high quality boars, which is the male animals. Most of your pigs are crossbred. If you actually look at the pigs that we have down at the barn, they are crossbred. They are part Duroc and they're part um, Chester White. So, and we'll look at some of those breeds in a few minutes, but the ones that we have are crossbred. And so most of the time you don't see any purebred pigs. Now I'm going to show you some purebred pig breeds, just because, it's interesting to take a look and see the different types of breeds. But normally in production, you do not have crossbred or purebred pigs, except for the boars. The boars are typically going to be really, really nice boars, very high quality, and they're normally going to be crossbred with sows that are, not going to be as high quality, but they were trying to do what we call increasing hybrid vigor. We're trying to make the babies better quality than the parents. So in the United States, the most popular breeds are Duroc, Hampshire, and Yorkshire. Hampshire is actually one of the kind of actually Duroc and Hampshire are kind of some of the trendy breeds right now in the food world, along with Berkshire. And so it's one of those things that everything kind of trends. And right now, those are some of the ones that we see a lot in some of the food world type trends. So let's take a look at some of these breeds. Some of them are going to look similar to one another, and the way that you can tell the difference between pig breeds. Like, we're going to look at 3 different white breeds. This is a white breed. I know she looks pink, but you're seeing the color of her skin. She does have white hair over her skin. So one of the 3 white breeds that you'll see is American Landrace. And what you'll notice is that the difference between this and some of the other breeds we're going to look at is her ears. This American Landrace, very long animal, lots of pork chop. She's obviously getting ready to be a mama. But lots of meat quality as far as this animal is concerned. They have really good mothering ability and instincts. But when you're looking at them and trying to identify them from another type of white pig, you have to look at the ears. And so she's got really long ears that droop down over her face. We're going to look at some in a few minutes that are also white breeds, but their ears are going to look different, and that's how we're going to be able to identify them. And I should have put them back to back to back, but they're not. So we'll have to see them when we get to them. Actually, what we've got is the first three that are the most popular breeds. So you got the landrace, or some that are popular breeds. The Duroc. The Duroc is red. They're a lean quality animal. They have droopy ears, not nearly as long and droopy as what you saw in the American landrace. But this one you can for sure identify from the other red breed that we'll see in a few minutes, because this one is a lean commercial looking hog. And one of the breeds that's mixed into the pigs that we have down at the barn is actually Duroc. So you'll notice some of the dark spotting, the brown spotting on some of those pigs that we have down there. Okay, so this one is actually our first shire. And what I mean by that is Hampshire. We have shire at the end. There are several breeds that have the word shire at the end. They're all English breeds. And so these shire breeds all have erect ears, meaning that all of them have ears that stick up. So that's one of the ways you're going to be able to tell pig breeds from one another, is whether their ears are floppy or whether their ears are erect and stand up. So the Hampshire is the only one that I'm going to show you that's colored like this. So it's kind of your Oreo pig. It's got the black on one end, the black on the other end, and the white band around the middle. But you can for sure tell it is a shire because it has those ears that stick up. It's not to say there aren't some other breeds that have ears that stick up, but the shires always have ears that stick up. Hence the second white breed, which is the Yorkshire. So when we looked at the American landrace, she also was pregnant and looked like she was about to explode. This pig looks like she's going to farrow any day or any second. And so also a white breed. And the difference between the two is that American landrace had those ears that flopped all the way down over her face, whereas the Yorkshire has those erect ears that stick straight out. And so another shire, another erect ear. I'm going to show you two that are very similar in color, and one is a shire and the other one is not. So the first one is a Poland China. We're going to see another one that looks just like this in just a few minutes, but it has erect ears because it has shire at the end of its name. So the Poland China is a black breed. It's got white on its snout, it's got white on its feet, and it's got a little white tip on the end of its tail. But Poland China, not terribly popular in this area as compared to some of the other breeds, but it will look very similar to another breed we're going to see in just a few minutes. So here's the third white breed. This is a Chester White, and notice it does have floppy ears like the American landrace, but they're not nearly as long and droopy. That American landrace has ears that almost cover its entire face. The Chester White's ears are going to be smaller. They're not going to be erect like the Yorkshire. They're going to flop down, but they're just not going to be as long and floppy as what you saw with the American landrace. So the Chester White's going to have a little bit shorter ears, and our pigs at the barn are part Duroc, part Chester White. So, and there's probably some other stuff thrown in there too, but for the most part, we're looking at Chester White and Duroc. The Tamworth is one that is the other red breed. We saw the Duroc a few minutes ago, and the Duroc was this nice, lean, commercial-looking pig. The Tamworth, to me, it does have erect ears, and it's not a shire, but does have erect ears. The Tamworth, to me, almost looks like a wild boar. It's got this really long snout to it. So that's how I kind of look and tell the difference between the Duroc and the Tamworth. The Tamworth seems to have a little bit shorter body, and to me, it just looks like a more primitive type of breed as compared to what we're seeing with the Duroc. Okay, so I told you a couple of minutes ago when you saw the Poland China, there would be another breed that looks similar to it, and this is it. But look at the end of its name. It's a shire. So look at those ears. They're going to stick up because this is a Berkshire. It looks just like the Poland China. It's got that black body, white snout, white feet, white tip on its tail, but it is going to have ears that stick up. So that's how you're going to be able to tell the Berkshire from the Poland China. The Berkshire is one of those trends in the food world right now. So sometimes you'll go into a restaurant and it'll literally say Berkshire pork, and so that's one of those things that we see sometimes these days, kind of like Angus beef. The last one is a spotted swine, and this particular spotted swine um, is kind of almost colored up like a Poland China or a Berkshire, but we're literally looking at a pig that just has spots all over it. So this is not a particular color pattern. It's just a spotted animal, kind of like that spotted black and white Holstein. So the spotted swine is going to be a spotted breed of pig. We will look at poultry the next time around, but I did want to spend some time looking at pigs because it is a major industry in North Carolina. Even though we don't see a lot of them in Cleveland County, the eastern part of the state has got millions of hogs, and so we it is a huge part of our economy in North Carolina. So it's something that's is very important to North Carolina agriculture and something that's important to understand, even though we don't see a whole lot of them in Cleveland County. So I will talk to you next time about poultry, and I will talk to you very soon.